Bullis Student Tutor, and today we're going to be talking about SAQs, or short answer questions. Short answer questions are mainly found in AP World History, APUS History, AP Comp Gov, and the skills that we're going to learn today can also be used to answer questions where you need to answer in 3 to 4 sentences. Now, before we get started, it's important to note that SAQs usually respond to stimulus, such as a map, photo, or a piece of text, but also they can just be a plain question that refers to a time period or an event, and you're going to be expected to work with that and to answer the question. So, what do we do when we encounter an SAQ? Well, we always have to ace it, or answer, cite, explain, in that order. First, you give an answer to the question, you cite reasoning for it, and you explain how that uh, answer and citation relates, and you go from there, wrapping your whole idea up. So, once again, the first sentence must restate the question, then answer the question, and you need to be assertive. Next, you need to cite or defend your point, and what evidence can you give to strengthen your stand? Lastly, you need to explain how your example relates to your answer. This should thoroughly connect the evidence to your assertion as well as conclude your SAQ. Use 2 sentences for this if needed, but just keep the whole thing under 4 sentences. You don't want to go super hard and long on these SAQs. You want to just knock them out and move on to the next thing. So let's look at an example. This is an SAQ you would find on an APUS history exam and has three questions. So you have to answer all three of these questions in order to get full marks for this SAQ. And usually you'll have to answer 2 of these 3 question combos. So let's look at this first one. How did industrial capitalism affect U.S. business? And this is in the context of the Gilded Age, which was a time in America of a lot of industrial growth and a lot of changes between workers and the government and corporations at the time. So let's look at how we should answer, cite, and explain this question. Rapid industrialization massively impacted U.S. business by encouraging swift and significant production growth throughout the Gilded Age. So that answers the question. It's simple, it's assertive, and it gets the job done. Next, I'm going to explain my historical evidence for this. So, the Industrial Revolution was in full flow at this time, and the introduction of technological advances such as railroads, as well as the Bessemer process, which helped steel production, allowed for goods to be mass produced and for a cheap price. And then we go and move on to the explaining portion. In all, this cheap and effective production, as well as easy transportation of goods at this time, allowed for consumer access to more products, as well as the growth of corporations and large trusts. So this took maybe 5 minutes to knock out. I answered the question assertively, cited with some historical evidence, and explained how everything works together. And I have to do this for every single one of these 3 green questions. And that'll usually take up about a page between all 3 of these questions. So you really have to focus on just knocking it out. There's not too much time on this section for the APUS, AP World History exams, so you really have to be on your game. Don't think about it as much, just think what was going on in this time period. And before you start answering these SAQs as well, make sure there's no questions where you have no idea any historical evidence. Let's say, how were social norms changed during the Gilded Age? If you don't know anything about the social norms during the Gilded Age, this is definitely a group of 3 questions you're going to try and avoid. Even if you know the first 2 questions, you need to stick away from this one in order to maximize your points and make sure you don't run out of time. So, thank you for listening. I hope you learned about acing SAQs. Thank you.